Thomas and the Foal. There's a farm near the old mine on Thomas's branch line. Every time the engines go to collect cars, they always look forward to seeing Farmer Brown and his horses working in the fields. As much as Thomas liked the horses, he wondered why Farmer Brown didn't use a tractor. "Farmer Finney has Terence, and Farmer McColl has Ferguson," he said to Farmer Brown one day. "And they're both reliable. Why don't you have one?" "My horses are more reliable than any tractor," laughed Farmer Brown. "Even when they're poorly, they try and keep working regardless. But as well as that, my land lies on top of the old mine shafts. The weight of a tractor running over them could cause an accident." Thomas understood that all too well. The next morning, Thomas was sent to collect empty cars from the mine. It had rained heavily during the night, and the rails were still damp and slippery. "The river has burst its banks," the station master told the driver. "Be careful down at the mines. The floodwater has washed away the earth from the old mine tunnels. The ground is likely to be soft." Thomas set off carefully. As he passed Farmer Brown's farm, he saw Mrs. Brown standing by the side of the line waving urgently at him. "Stop, Thomas, stop," she called. "What's the matter?" asked Thomas. "Oh, Thomas, one of our foals has fallen into the mine tunnels. We can't get him out." Thomas looked into the field where Farmer Brown was tending to the trapped foal. "We'll go and fetch help," said the driver. Mrs. Brown shook her head. "There's no time to waste. We need help now. Can you try pulling him out, Thomas?" Thomas wasn't sure, but he was willing to try. The driver walked down the embankment with Mrs. Brown and found the foal with Farmer Brown. The foal was up to his neck in muddy water and sinking further down into the shaft. Farmer Brown put a head collar on the foal and attached a long rope to each side. The driver took the ropes up the embankment to Thomas and tied each to one of Thomas's front buffers. "You'll need to pull hard, but remember to be careful and gentle. We don't want him injured." Thomas was nervous, but determined to help as best he could. Farmer Brown made sure everything was ready, and then he called to Thomas. "Okay, start pulling." Thomas started to reverse backwards, slowly and steadily, pulling hard. The fireman sanded the rails to give Thomas a better grip, and with a good effort, he took up the slack on the ropes. They began to tighten and strain. "Slowly, Thomas, slowly," encouraged the driver. "You're doing well. Keep going." Farmer Brown and his wife watched anxiously as the foal began to lift slowly out of the muddy water. "He's coming free, Thomas," cheered Farmer Brown. "Keep it up." Thomas kept reversing and pulling hard. "Slow and steady, he chuffed to himself. Bit by bit, the foal began to rise further out, and Farmer Brown did what he could to help ease it back to safety. Then, with a last big effort from Thomas, the foal was free and walking on solid ground again. He was very muddy, but thankfully he wasn't hurt. Everyone cheered, and Farmer Brown led the rescued foal up to the railway line to meet the engine who had saved him. "Well done, Thomas," Farmer Brown smiled. "You're a hero." The foal whinnied in agreement. The driver and fireman patted him gently. "You're a lucky boy, They looked at Farmer Brown. "What's his name?" "We haven't named him yet," chuckled Mrs. Brown. "But after today's adventure, I know what it's going to be. Thomas the Tank Engine, meet Thomas the Heavy Horse." Thomas was very proud. "Fitting," laughed the driver. "They've both come to trouble with mines." "Speaking of which," put in Thomas, "we'd better go on and fetch those cars. The manager will be wondering where we are." They whistled goodbye to Farmer Brown, his wife, and the foal, and set off cheerfully for the mine. When they reached the junction, Gordon was waiting at the station with the express. "Huh," he scoffed lawfully. "You're late today, little Thomas. I bet you wish you were as fast as me, don't you?" Thomas just smiled cheekily. "Not at all, Gordon. Sometimes it's better to be slow and steady than fast and powerful." And he steamed happily away to fetch Annie and Clarabelle and tell them all about rescuing the foal.